You do this as for a living. You make points. You make cultural, political, religious, in some cases, points through humor. Why do you choose to do that? Is it a good avenue for doing that sort of thing?
In my view, comedy is its own language. I'm reminded often of a wonderful quote, you probably have never heard it, by Sir Peter Ustinov, who's a British humorist. And Sir Peter Ustinov once famously remarked, comedy is simply a funny way of being serious. And I think there's a lot of truth in that. It's also been said that much truth is said in jest. The fact of the matter is, comedy often gives us a vehicle to address some of the heaviest subject matter that we can't otherwise address in a constructive manner.
Why? Why does it give you that vehicle? Does it
that's
set
a good
you
question.
free in some way?
I think that in some ways it does. I mean, it's been said again, maybe this doesn't answer your question, but it's been said that the only two people who can really speak truth to power, who can tell the emperor they're not wearing any clothes, are comedians and poets. And so there is something about, comedy and humor allowing people to let their guard down. It also has to do with something that I've heard Ibu say once before, which is that when you're laughing, you can't hate. So there's this idea that people, they have a heightened sensitivity about, suddenly when they're finding themselves in a humorous context, they can let their guard down, they can relax, and perhaps find themselves to be more perceptive and more receptive to information and ideas they would otherwise be very resistant to.
Let me turn to Kareem Salama in California. You're a songwriter. You presumably send these messages through your music. Why do you choose to do it that way? Why don't you choose to make speeches or whatever? Why and how do you do it through music?
Well, I write music because I write music, but I think that the great thing about an artist is that artists are trusted, and at least where I'm from, a lot of people don't trust the talking heads that they see on television. They don't trust a lot of the Muslim people that speak from organizations, even though I believe they're trustworthy. A lot of people just don't trust them because they think they have an agenda. An artist, well, for the most part, people typically think of them as people that don't have an agenda and people who speak from their heart. And I think that that's why it's important, because even if you're speaking truth, if people don't trust what you're saying, it really doesn't make a whole lot of difference.
I can certainly comment on that. As a stand-up comedian, I take great pride in the fact that stand-up is a quintessentially American art form. In fact, there are only two indigenous American art forms, jazz and stand-up comedy. And there's actually a relationship between those two. I'm actually being serious, but I appreciate the laughs. Take them where I can get them. Stand-up is ultimately an American art form, and it is a protest art. It always has been. And it's always been taken up by perhaps the most disenfranchised groups of American society. Jewish American comedians, African American comedians have defined the parameters of this art form. And then, of course, throughout time, other groups have taken it up as well. So there is this idea that if you're a disenfranchised group in America, at some point you find yourself on stage telling jokes, because it is a therapeutic, it is a way to speak truth to power, it is a way to change people's perceptions and curb the discrimination and stereotyping. So it's no surprise to me at all that suddenly we find ourselves in the midst of an emerging humor tradition, which is that of the American Muslim comedian.
Kareem, I'm going to turn to you briefly for a response on this. Do you have a sense of immunity when you write a song that has a political message or a religious message or whatever?
Well, I think to start off with, it's important that the artist be true to the art, and that's why they have that immunity. And I do think that there is a level of immunity, but you can abuse that by being very pedantic or being so focused on trying to deliver a message that you forget what it is that you want to say to yourself first of all, and sort of how your heart is articulating things to you. That there's an Arabic phrase that says that al-lisan tarjuman al-qalb. It means that the tongue is the interpreter of the heart. And so to be true to yourself, you should allow your tongue to articulate whatever it is that's in your heart. And if you have goodness in your heart, then it'll come out.